that better? Can you hear me? We're going to call to order the regular meeting of the Monee Village Board for March 11th. The time is now 6:37. If you will kindly rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, sir.
Trustee Gonzalez.
Here.
Gray. Here. Holston.
Present.
Horn.
Here.
Pop.
Here.
And Raisik.
Present.
At this point, we'll proceed to the opening of the public agenda items only. If you will please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Give your name, address, and Ines. Anyone? Okay. Next, we have the consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I would make that motion.
Second. Sorry, was that a second from Holston? Okay, so that was Pop and Holston. Roll call, please.
Trustee Gray.
Yes.
Holston.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Pop.
Yes.
Raisik.
Yes.
And Gonzalez.
Yes.
Mr. Clerk. Are you on?
Mr. Mayor, we did get a letter from Mrs. Annie Murray, principal of the Mother Teresa Catholic Academy on Kings Road in Crete. On Saturday, March 21st, they will hold their annual spring celebration being Hollywood Game Night. The event begins at 6:30 p.m. with cocktails followed by dinner, auctions, and live music. Tickets are $50 per person or a table of 8 for $3.80. Mother Teresa Academy, Catholic Academy, MTCA, as you may know, is located in Crete on Kings Road. We have 255 students in pre-K through 8 and 33 faculty and staff who reside in several local communities, including Crete, Stagger Park Forest, University Park, Monee, Beecher, and South Chicago Heights. They're inviting us to the Hollywood Game Night to meet parents and supporters and take a look at our school. If you cannot attend, please take a chance at the spring raffle and stop in another time for a tour. So we have some more information I think we should post. If that's
Out in the bulletin board?
Yep.
Great. Okay, anything further?
That's it.
Okay, I have nothing under the mayor's agenda. Administrator's report?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The first item is discussion and presentation by Mr. Mike Barnett of Hudson Energy. A little bit of background on this presentation. A few weeks ago, we met with Natalie Hickey and with Mr. Barnett from Hudson Energy to discuss a program that they offer to municipalities for our energy costs to help us greatly reduce these costs. And so we did a price comparison with our ComEd bills and with our NICOR gas bills, and that's what has led up to this presentation. In your package, you have the breakdown, the costs. They went over our costs over a year of time, and Mr. Barnett can break that down in the program for us. So without any further ado, Mr. Barnett.
Good evening. Again, I'm sure that everybody here is familiar with the deregulation of both natural gas and electricity in the state of Illinois. Basically what that means is that both residential accounts as well as commercial accounts are authorized to pick or select a specific supply relationship of their choosing. Hudson Energy is a licensed energy supply company here in the state of Illinois, focusing specifically on commercial accounts. Some of you may be familiar with the concept of citywide aggregation. It's something where the city has the ability to work in behalf of the residents to acquire a program for residential accounts. That's not what we're talking about here. This has nothing to do with the citizens. This is specifically for the accounts that the village itself is responsible for. Under aggregation laws, basically, the village has its own accounts, which are considered under the definition by the utility as commercial accounts. So again, that's what we are talking about, is the commercial energy accounts that the village is responsible for. So what we do is we specialize in providing lower cost programs. One of the key things that we do is that we are able to very accurately project what your usage is going to be. We go out to the generalized markets with that information, and because we are able to be a little bit more accurate in our projections, what we can do for our accounts is get them a lower price. The beginning part of any relationship that we have, I always like to say, is only about 20% of really the value of what we try to do. The real key to our relationship is that during any period of coverage, we are working to keep an eye on the account, its cost, and what we're trying to do is pursue or look for opportunities to make positive changes to that if in fact there are adjustments in the general marketplace. Most companies simply establish a price, they have a beginning date, an end date, and then there's nothing more that they're really doing. We are actively involved in making positive changes throughout coverage periods. So what that does strategically is, I can just give you some examples. I've had some accounts that I've had in place for 5 years. Because of this active management where we are strategically placing or replacing accounts at lower price points, over a 5-year period, these accounts have realized about a 5% increase in total. When you break that down per year, it's about a 1% per year, which is below the inflation rate. In essence, what we're doing is looking to flatline an expense, which typically for most companies, for most of us, is a cost that rises year over year based on the things that are going on. So what we do is we actively manage, we provide feedback, we extend ourselves to answer questions, even make presentations of a general basis, just to help educate people about the importance of deregulation and the options and choices that not only people are able to make, but also corporations. And in this area, we work with some of the major accounts like Yoshino up the road, National Tube Supply, companies like that. So those are just some of the accounts that we have an active relationship with. So again, we've made this with the assistance of the village. We did an analysis and we identified that we believe that we can do something positive with regards to your natural gas accounts. And that's really what we are proposing, is to be able to work with the village, control that cost, again, establish a program, initial program of no more than 12 months. And then from that point, throughout that, we will actively work to see if there's opportunities to actually reduce that cost over time. Are there any questions that I can answer?
Trustees?
Yes, ma'am.
You made one statement a couple of times that says that you more accurately project usage. How can you do that better than competitors?
What most companies do is they will look at what is considered an annual gross usage. As a licensed energy, first of all, the utilities are actually the entities that collect the general usage information and they maintain that. As a licensed energy supply company, we're allowed access to that. Actually, the reason that our company was started was that we had developed a technology for accurately forecasting that information. So we can we'll take the information that utility will provide us, and we'll break down usage not only on an annual basis, which is what most companies do, but we'll look at it as a seasonal basis, we'll look at it as on a monthly basis, a weekly basis, a daily basis, and even an hourly basis. Now, the reason that's important is that when we go to the market and we can present a usage information that is more desirable over one that is less desirable, then normally we can get a better price point for doing that. I always like to give an example. This is on the electric side. Most of the time, most companies are looking at annualized usage. But I actually had two accounts side by side one time. One was using about 2 million kilowatts per year, another one was using 1 million. Now, by the typical way in which that's done, you would think that the 2 million would actually get a lower price point than the 1 million. It turned out the 1 million actually got the lower price point. It was pretty significant. The reason for that is because we were I just give you the understanding that the 2 million was actually a school, and the 1 million was a hotel. Now, hotels by their nature are normally using a lot in the early morning and the evenings, but not much in the midday. By reverse, the school is the opposite. Now that's a general example, but we drilled this down very deep, and the people that actually create energy, provide energy, are required to maintain certain levels. When we can provide information that allows them to keep that as low as possible, it's actually more desirable from their standpoint, and we're able to get better rates from that.
And you said you develop software to more accurately project?
Correct. That's so when we obtain information, we follow state guidelines. State guidelines basically say if we receive information, we're allowed to look at a customer's information. When we receive that, we pretty much plug that into our software. We do a projection. Every customer that we have actually gets a different price point. There's no two accounts. It's almost extremely rare that anybody would actually get the same price point. Because no two companies, I don't care what, they could be side by side using the same amount, they're not going to use the energy in the same way. And so because of that, we're able to determine whoever's using it the best is generally going to get the better price point. And again, the best is all relative to how the market sees that as the best.
In Hudson, this is only for commercial clients, you don't have a residential arm that can do the same thing?
That is correct. And the reason for that is this technology really is a little bit higher level. For the most part, this is a generalized summary, but a home is a home is a home is a home. There's not much going on there. But you look at
It's a whole lot different than...
and I understand that, but from our standpoint, we're integrating. There's another arm of what we do, which actually is involved with assisting companies at actually reducing their electricity consumption while maintaining the same operational level. So our specialization really is helping, when I say corporations, it would be any account not defined by the utility as a home. And that's what your accounts are. And so what we do is we do analysis and help not only to reduce energy consumption, but also accurately forecast what's going to be used. And overall, we're able to get better rates and control those costs better.
And this proposal is just for the gas portion, not gas and electric?
Right now, that's what we're looking at, is just the gas. That's correct.
If I understand the program right, sir, the price is based upon index price, which is a flexible price?
And actually, the one that we're looking at is would be fixed. And to address the question in a broader sense, if I could back up a little bit, typically there are a number of different strategies that can be used when putting people in energy programs, but they can be broken down to two basic, which would be indexing. Indexing is the concept where price changed, right, and the changes depend on the commodity differently, or there's fixed. What you do is you use different strategies at different times. So, for instance, right now, the reason the suggestion is to look at a fixed price on the natural gas is because we are sitting at, we're not quite there right now because we've transitioned a little bit out of it, but pretty much at a decade low for natural gas costs. So in other words, index is really good when prices are going down. When you get to a bottom, that's what you want to do, is you want to settle in. Now, we still only ever look at really short-term program periods. We're not really big into long-term agreements because the short-term actually gives the customer flexibility, often gives a much lower price. And again, because we said we are going to manage that expense by keeping an eye even in the midterm, we're going to be looking for opportunities for renewal that are pretty much in and around the price point that they're at. But so at this point, because the market is at a low, that's really the better strategy. Because if we were to put you in index, then all that would happen is as this is rising out, your prices would just keep rising.
So your price would be for 1 year at the fixed price and then negotiable at that point?
Again, we would come back to you if we'd reach out to the village in the midterm with the possibility of either reducing that or coming back at or near a renewal point with some options.
Is there any delivery or transportation charge with this?
State regulations require that the utility, those costs, the delivery, transportation, and taxes are all established and regulated by the state of Illinois. So we are not allowed to be involved in that. Those are all regulated expenses.
So the comparison you gave us, is that just before delivery?
That would be before delivery. That's correct. Your supply cost is supply cost.
Are you or Mr. Batista aware that if we go to your program, will there be any additional charge to us by NICOR?
Oh, no. State,
Application will stay the same?
that's absolutely correct. The transportation costs are actually, I'm going to say, fixed and established by the state and are not affected to one degree or the other by a relationship with the supply company. So in other words, there's absolutely no way to get a break.
So what's the risk to the village the first 12 months?
At this point, with the rates where they're at, there really is, I don't see very much risk.
Rates where they're at,
Because rates are low,
right?
and again, because the strategy that we're looking at, when rates are low and you're looking at a fixed, it's a very conservative position, quite honestly.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mr. Barnett, do you serve any other municipalities?
The town of Morris, Bellwood, Worth, a number of others like that.
Mr. Batista, if we looked at any other programs from anybody else?
Sure. Again, the information that put in here is that what we did is we looked at your usage going backwards and looking at the information that was made available to us. The usage column is your usage by the village in form of therms. Therms is how natural gas is purchased and sold in the state of Illinois. Under the current program that was in place, these are, you take the therms times the annual average price, and then that's what the cost would have been. What we were able to do is, looking backwards at the price point that you would have been at, these are the cost differences on a month-to-month basis. Again, summing that up, and this is about right, this is certainly we'd say a smaller account, but again, we are looking at about a 12 to 15% cost difference. And again, the most important part is right now where you're at, your account is in what's referred to as the general pool. And in that general pool, the biggest concern there is if in fact there are any spikes or significant rises in costs, which occur about every 3 years, the current program you're in has no upper ceiling to stop. And those prices have been in excess of $1.50 in this area, which is about 300% more than where they're at. So right now things are in a good position, but the program that you have has no protection associated with it, which we think is important.
One more question, please. Under quantity, it indicates that you reserve the right to charge customer for additional incremental cost. If I'm reading that correctly, if you're estimating the volume, if the volume goes above this for a particular region, there's an opportunity.
That particular paragraph references change in, let me get the right. Can I see your yes? Yeah, the paragraphs, the sentence states, should a material change in usage practices occur. What that references a material change in usage practices. That would mean you would stop being a village and you would become a manufacturer. From a commercial, anytime we're talking about our typical commercial entities, if something is a hotel and it decides it wants to stop being a hotel and be something else, that's a material change in how you're using
Okay.
energy. Other than that, if you were to look in the detail of the general terms and conditions,
No, it's fine.
notice the fine print. But I'm actually quite proud of our fine print. Section 18, which is amendments. We are the only company in the state of Illinois that has in all of its agreements, it states that Hudson Energy will not amend the term or price without customers' consent. That consent can only be achieved by a written document. The reason that's important is because most programs put in their automatic renewal provisions, that if the village were not timely in keeping an eye on something could automatically trip over. In most of those, it gives the supplier the rights to readjust either the strategy, which we talked about the strategy and the key in that, or the price. This specifically states that under all of our agreements, we actually have a responsibility to the commitment that we make, but the control over the program is retained by the customer. And that the only time prices can need to be adjusted upward or downward is with a written consent by the customer. The only way a program can be extended is with a written consent of the customer. And I read contracts all the time, and I can tell you that it's unfortunate, but there are some not good programs out there, and that's why I'm so proud to represent this company. Thank you.
Any other trustees?
I just have a question for Mr. Batista. Do you have a recommendation for this?
My recommendation is that we let the board digest it and discuss it. I left it open-ended on the agenda in the event that someone wanted to move forward with the work, but my suggestion is that we let the board digest it. There's a lot of information here.
Any other questions for the presenter? So I have one question here for you on this, and that's pertaining to, you talked about it not automatically renewing and things of that sort. So 12 months into this, if we haven't done anything, we've been non-responsive or whatever the case may be, do we automatically flip back to NICOR?
We would work with you, and if you decided that you didn't want to continue this, we would make arrangements to have your program go back to the default pool that you're in right now.
But we'd have to sign something to be released from you at that point?
No, we just make the arrangements and get that all taken care of.
Right. So if we're not meeting the deadlines, I just want to make sure that those automatic things are...
And that's one thing, we don't have deadlines.
Okay.
You know, we're not that way. We're not trying to, I know of a company that you have to be within a really short window and send in the documents and all that. That's not how we operate. You know,
We've all seen some of that, so thank you. All right, at this time, I think we'll, per Mr. Batista's request, we'll merely take this in for advisement, and if the board will take the time over the next week and review your perspectives on this and report back to the administrator if you would like this to be on the agenda for the following week. Okay. Thank you very much, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Just in follow-up, we did take a look at our ComEd billing as well, and we have a good program that we're in currently, and they were happy to inform us of that. So, okay, our next on the excuse me.
For the ComEd portion of that, just so the rest of the board's aware that because of being a municipality, ComEd does have certain priority, not just priority, but discount programs that are already enacted because of the fact that we are serving the community the way we are. So it's kind of hard to beat, not free service necessarily, but the heavily discounted that ComEd gives us directly. So,
okay, the next item, Mr. Mayor, is a presentation by Joan Cross from ELS. She's the community property manager of Gulf Vista, and she is new to Gulf Vista, to our community, and just wanted to offer this invitation to allow her to speak before the board and introduce herself and answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Wanda?
Good evening. I would first like to thank everybody for allowing me to come out and introduce myself. I am the resort manager over at Gulf Vista. I've only been there since October, so I'm still kind of getting my feet wet with everything going on over there. So hopefully Golf Vista and the village can have a relationship so we can do great things here in the village together.
Any questions from the board, or?
Joan Cross.
And I do want to commend you. From what I understand, I haven't verified this, but I believe that you have been researching some of the issues that were pertaining to underage, seems strange to say underage. But I believe you guys have diligently been working towards remediating that.
Yes,
I
we
appreciate
have.
that.
We have, because I know it was a lot of stuff that went on with the previous manager, so
So
we're trying to take care of it now.
So, and then once you formalize your process of quality confirming all that, so
Yes.
it'd be good for us to know as well.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay, the next two items, actually, we're going to table. We're not at a point yet where we've reached an agreement with item number 3. And in regards to our bond, I'm going to defer to council.
Thank you, Mr. Batista. Basically, it appears as though the bond sale will take place, I believe, next week. The pricing, Ruben, Daryl, and the mayor did a very nice job on the presentation. Our rating was better than we anticipated, credit rating. I'm fairly certain we'll have the bond I should say, the bond proceeds by April 5th. But our rating was very good. In fact, it was to the point where there may not be a necessity to get bond insurance because the rating is pretty good. He did have a couple concerns that I can talk to the board and the mayor later about, but overall, it's going very smooth. So the rates are good. They'll go on the market probably next week, and again, we'll have the bond proceeds, I believe, available April.
Middle of April.
Yeah, hopefully earlier than that, but everything's going very well.
Okay.
Okay, that concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Officials report, Public Works.
A couple things this evening. First and foremost, talking with our superintendent, Giselle. For the first time in a while, our IDPH, which they would have to help me on that one.
Illinois Department of Public Health.
Perfect. Water compliance, for the first time in a long time, we got a perfect report. And Dave Griselle and Ed are going to be going down to Springfield on March 23rd to have an award presented to them for the work with our water compliance. I know that 2 years ago, there was an issue with one of the towers when Dave took over. It was not a pretty scene. I don't even want to describe what it looked like, but in the past 2 years that he's been taking care of it with Ed, everything is up to par, basically. So congratulations to yourself and to Ed and everybody else in the Public Works. Secondly, with the weather changing, if we can clean out, if you have a chance to clean out the sewer systems by your house, to clean out the leaves and the debris, hopefully the water flow will be much better for you, and hopefully we don't flood there. But again, with the weather breaking, it's going to be a little task that we're asking the citizens to help. And thirdly, we had some complaints over the winter, and we understand that as far as the mailboxes. Now that the weather's breaking, we are going to be out repairing the ones that did get knocked over by the village. The few that there are, please go to the website and keep track of that. That's all for this evening.
Thank you.
Question? Sure.
The number of water main breaks the last couple of weeks, can we get a report on that?
We have that report.
I have it, but I do know that we get updated about the water main breaks, and they do get taken care of. And again, with the way the weather is, the older pipes, they are happening.
My question was more, is it systematic? I mean, I don't have a problem with DJ answering that, I just thought it would be been some question about the number of breaks over the last month, I think at least 4 or 5. Am I right?
Well, there's been 2 valve breaks on February 21st and 22nd, and then there's been 2 main breaks on Briar Lane and Williams on the 19th of February, and Margaret and Lynn on the 28th of February. And the one on Briar Lane and Williams was broken 2 spots. So yes, there's been 4 in the past. In February itself, it's been basically about a week and a half. There's 4 breaks.
But I think we were down for the year on our, whatever an average would be. Is that correct, Mr. Griselle?
Yes, sir. And to answer Trustee Holston's question, it really didn't relate to anything other than the older system showing its fatigue in the wear, 50-plus years in the system. You can't really guess where a main break's going to happen, but it's been suspect of all the older systems we have. And as far as the bolt breaking at the valves, before the year 2000, any valves that were put in during our phases of initial construction throughout our municipality and all the new subdivisions, they did not use stainless steel bolts assembling the valves. They used a lesser grade bolt that would disintegrate over time. Electrolysis would eat away the bolt, and the pressure of the water has enough pressure in it to eventually blow the valve apart, and that's what happened in those 2 cases. Both the valve failures were valves that were older than 2000, and the pressure just let it give way. That with the colder temperatures usually is what creates softer, brittle indoor. So.
Yeah, good job on part of you folks on letting us know when they happen, so we were aware of them at the time. I appreciate that. I'm sure the trustees do too.
Well, I was just gonna go there. Every time something like this happens, I do get a message from Dave just to let you know this is going on. So he does keep us informed, and the Monee community website does too.
Yeah, that was actually a very nice job with the website. Put it on there too, so thank you to whoever's doing it.
So that's the end of my report.
Next item is Parks and Rec. Trustee Gonzalez.
Just one short thing today too, just to let everybody know that the Village of Monee and the Monee Alliance of Churches is having a community Easter egg hunt and breakfast, thank you, on Saturday, April 4th from 9:30 to 11. And get this is a free pancake breakfast, first come, first serve. There's pictures with the Easter Bunny, Easter egg hunt. There's children and family activities and raffles and everything going on that day. So thank you to the Alliance of Churches for providing that to the village, and whatever the village is also donating as part of the breakfast too. So come take advantage.
What time is that?
9:30 to 11 at Fireman's Park, I'm assuming in the new park building.
Yes.
End of report.
Finance with Trustee Horn.
Hello. Over the weekend, some residents noticed a print issue on their most recent water bills. There was a double print of water usage rates and water billing costs occurred on a few accounts. This was an isolated incident and was quickly reviewed and addressed by our staff. So if you or someone you know has a problem with that, please stop by the village, or you may call the village hall and rectify that situation.
Trustee Horn. I believe if people are confused with what they need to look for, I believe that it was also posted to the website as an example.
And that was
Or at least on the Facebook page. Was it on the website also?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw that. That was on Facebook as well, yes. General fund expenses, right now, we're currently 64% of budgeted expenses, so we're holding the line very well. Our finance department is currently working on the following items for getting board approval by April 30th. We have a budget, fiscal year 2016 budget we're going to be working on. Also, the department, we want to put in some new policies, good fiscal policies, a number of them being a debt management policy. We need to also come up with an investment policy and a minimum fund balance policy. So we'll be working on those in the next well, I guess about 7 months. And that's the end of my report.
Thank you very much. Business Development, Trustee Holston.
No report?
Thank you. Building Services and Code Enforcement, Trustee Pop.
Yeah, all the different projects I've mentioned, without going through each and every one of them, they're moving along very favorably as far as getting different approvals on rough-ins and what have you. All the different businesses, which I'm looking at a total here of 5 to maybe 6, they're moving along very well. And I do understand that we're not interviewing for a position in the building department.
We have been for
For quite a while.
Superintendent Crizel.
Just to help that department out, it's very overworked. We've had some unhappy construction people, not our fault. Most of it's theirs, once they're told what they're not doing right or whatever. But anyway, we are trying to streamline the department and improve it, so, end of report.
Yeah, and just to clarify, Superintendent Crizel and Mr. Batista have been working on interviewing for that position. I think they're getting close. Okay, so they're whittling it down. They have one more set of reviews that they're going to be going through, and hopefully sooner than later they'll have something to present to the board, maybe by the next meeting. Maybe, hopefully, because this is the time of year when that department is in dire need of the kind of support, for the staffing and such. So the sooner the better on that. Public safety and police.
Taking a few things. First, from the police department, the polar plunge to date has raised $7,660 with an additional $1,000 for a t-shirt sponsorship from South Suburban Mitsubishi. So the total right now is a total of $8,660. And talking with last Roman before the meeting, he's been getting some more money, so the total is just going to go from there. The police department, as of February 25th, 4 individuals were sworn in to work part-time for the police department. Here's the police officers in no particular order: Matthew Ludwig, William Kelly, Tom Pateramos, Kyle Robinson, and their training will start in March, this month, and then for the next 10 weeks, cumulatively. However, not necessarily in succession. On February 11th, live scan fingerprint terminal was installed at the police department by the ISP free of charge. The unit will go online soon, as Will County 911 gives us our secure connection to CAD and the state of Illinois for headquarters. Time frame is 2 to 3 weeks for the connection to come online, and we saved the village approximately $15,000 that way. And that money can go towards badly needed new radars and ADD units in the patrol cars. That's it for the police. And for EMA, got a couple things. The Monee EMA will be hosting a severe weather spotter class on Monday, March 30th from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m. at the Village Hall boardroom here. If you are interested, you can register. Call 815-723-1455. Space is limited. This will be taught by the National Weather Service, and all participants will receive a free certificate, and the class is open to the public. And lastly, the Monee EMA team has been conducting traffic control training exercises throughout the village. The public is asked to please be patient if entering one of these exercise locations, and the goal is to simulate realistic scenarios to meet training objectives. End of report.
Trustee Rachel, can I ask a question? You mentioned 4 part-time officers. Is it true we have an opening for a full-time officer as well? Do you know about that?
I think so, no?
Yeah, I'll answer that for you if I can. The police commission is responsible for hiring any full-timers. And the police commission has established the criteria, the guidelines, and everything else. That was something they had to do because once we exceed the 5,000 population, and fortunately we haven't had to hire, actually we haven't been able to hire a full-timer as a result of the situation as well. So if we had been in a situation where we needed to replace somebody, we couldn't have, other than an emergency temporary method for doing it. So they got the process out there, they've got the guidelines in place, they have notified a number of papers, and primarily the point of entry for a lot of officers who are looking to go full-time is what is referred to as the Blue Line. It's a publication where they look to you for that type of thing, where they allow them to subscribe to that notification list. And I believe the deadline is fast approaching to be added to the list, and thus far, to the best of my knowledge, there's only 11 candidates that have submitted their desire to be part of that testing process. And it is a thorough testing process, because once they're in, they're in. So if you know anybody who's looking for a full-time job as a police officer, there's a pretty thorough and exhaustive test process they have to go through. And I believe that we did include a provision for if somebody's a veteran, that there would be a point system, that they would get a couple points for that. I'm not exactly sure how the scoring goes, but I think we get points for that as well.
So it's in the pipeline?
It is very short turnaround. Once the testing has been approved, they create the list, and that list identifies pretty much the order in which, if you're gonna pick somebody, this is where you're gonna pick them and how. At that point, it's up to the board to give authorization within the budget, which we had already budgeted for this last year, but it just took longer than we anticipated to build that process, because it had never been done here before. Additionally, I had stipulated to the police chief that I wanted to see at least a half a dozen part-timers added to our force before we invested in full-timers with overtime issues as well. So he's coming close. He's got one more. They hired, how long ago did they hire, was it Officer Rizzo? Do you remember, was that 3 months ago?
In November, I believe.
Okay. Okay. So one more, and he's got his half dozen that I asked for, so that's good. And the nice thing about having the part-timers, they subsidize some of the scheduling issues we have when we need maybe 3 people on a shift at certain times, or if we have a special event or anything like that, to help minimize the burden on the overtime to the taxpayers. So special duty type things. The Explorer program, when does that start? Tony?
I believe March, I'm not sure the exact date, but March we have that open house.
Oh, it's an open house, is that what it is? Okay. Is it?
I'm not 100% sure on that.
We can run and see if anybody else knows, sorry.
26 sounds right.
The Explorer program, when's the open house for that? I think it's on the website, isn't it? Yeah. You're a little bit too old for it, but I appreciate it. Yeah. No, it's actually intended for, Ruben, what's the age on that? Is it 14 to, I thought it was up to 21.
It is up, you can be an Explorer up to 21 years of age,
Okay.
but I think the cutoff might be 20 years old.
Okay.
So you get enough time to train and whatnot.
So you can go right from an Explorer to, say, a cadet, or I'm sorry, right to going to school for a part-time or something like that, or whatever. You can't officially be a police officer until you're 21, though.
Correct. Actually, 20 and a half, I believe, but you have to have all your training and
Okay, understood.
so. But 21 is normally the time.
Okay, so it's kind of neat. Yeah, I'm proud of the guys. I know Anthony's been working on that as well, and it's kind of nice to see that they're encouraging individuals in our community that are interested in getting involved in law enforcement and helping the community be more aware of things like that. Other towns have programs like that. I think Crete has one for the Fire Explorer program. It's kind of nice that we can do one here for public safety in this regard. So
That open house is on a Thursday evening.
Thursday, do you have the time there, Tristan?
7 to 8:30.
7 to 8:30 at the police department.
Police department.
And I believe that if it's not on the website, it will be. It is? Okay. I have one item that I failed to mention, and it has to do with the the increase in population in Monee.
Just increased one last week.
Yes, that's correct. I'm doing my part, folks, you know, we're not into the rooftop.
One at a time.
I have a little fun with that, but my wife and I are pleased to announce that we have our latest and final of our family members. Joshua James was born a week ago Monday, so, and he's already had his first excursion to Shoops, just in case anybody's wondering. So, anyhow, of course we'll call him JJ. Anyhow, next we have, Larry, are you next?
Yes, sir. There's one item for the board's review and consideration. It's an approval of amendment to the economic incentive agreement with South Suburban Mitsubishi. We had some negotiations with Ms. Ravel and his counsel with respect to amending the initial economic incentive that we reached back in, I believe, June of 2010. I delineated the terms set forth in the amendment. Ms. Ravel has had an opportunity to review it. I believe his counsel has also approved it in the form for the board's consideration. You can approve it tonight, subject to the execution of a promissory note by South Suburban Mitsubishi, which I believe Ms. Ravel has received a copy of it. But you can authorize the mayor to execute tonight, subject to the signing of a promissory note to be signed by South Suburban Mitsubishi.
Is this the agreement that was discussed back at the beginning of the year? Are there any changes from what was discussed then?
Yes, sir. These are to correct let's say, a deficiency in the previous agreement. I believe Ms. Ravel finds it to be acceptable. The village will be reimbursed by Ms. Ravel, which he agreed to, starting, I believe it's March of this year. They'll be making payments to us. This agreement, I should note too, also pertains to the two dealerships and I believe the new dealership coming on Governor's Highway. So yes, sir. He has, I believe, had it for roughly a month, but he finds it to be acceptable. And from the village's standpoint, there are no negative repercussions. The village is being reimbursed for money. There is a time frame for Mr. Ravel to pay it. The economic incentive agreement will hopefully stimulate business for him on both sites and new motorcycle dealership.
So I'll entertain a motion to approve the authorization for the mayor and clerk to sign the amendment to the development agreement, as well, contingent, I should say, as I said, contingent on the execution of the promissory note by Mr. Ravel.
Yeah, by South Suburban Mitsubishi, Mr. Ravel as president of the company.
So with the board's approval,
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Gonzalez and Razor. Okay, any discussion at all? Roll call, please.
Trustee Holston?
Yes.
Ward? Yes. Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
That's all I have now.
Thank you. I know we've got some things on old business, but I think we're still kind of processing those. Is that correct, Mr. Holston?
Yeah, I apologize. I did meet with the Gulf Vista group, and we did have some things we worked out together, and I forgot to send it to them. I thought I had, found out tonight I hadn't, so I'll be meeting with them within the next week to get that to them. Should have something for the next board meeting.
Open to the public, non-agenda items. If you'll leave your comments to 3 minutes, come to the podium, give your name and address. Anything? Anyone? Okay. Going once? Yeah, all right.
Sorry,
Yes, sir.
do I need to go up there? My wife didn't jump up. I want to make sure everybody knows that the Monee Historical Society is having a pancake breakfast on March 21st at Shoops from 8 to 11.
8 to 11. Pancakes are not free. It is a fundraiser,
Smiles are.
but this is their 4th annual, I believe. I've lost track, we've been having so much fun. So we would appreciate anybody that wants to come out for that, coming out.
And it's the 21st.
March 21st, shoots 8 to 11.
What is it cost?
$7, I think.
Yes, $7.
Is it unlimited?
For you, yeah, you can give me all the $7 you want. How many tickets would you like? I'll be happy to sell.
Thank you. All right, anyone else? All right, I don't believe we have anything for executive session.
Correct.
We're getting a running streak on that, we haven't had.
So far, so good.
Yeah. I will advise the board that we are probably in the next month going to be starting issues of negotiations for the collective bargaining unit for the public works and clerical portion of that. And not sure exactly how soon that'll involve and require board involvement, but I'm being notified by the Teamsters that that is to be addressed, I believe, within about a month, approximately. Okay. So, and no action regarding executive session issues, and the time is now 7:28. Does somebody want to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
Raise it. Gray? Roll call, please.
Trustee Horn?
Yes.
Pop?
Yes.
Raisik?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Gray?
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you. Well, have a good night.